The mentality of this team and the mentality of Hansi Flick to not be scared. Doesn't matter if you're down a goal, you make the right decisions and right moves to get a win. And they seem to do that on a week in, week out basis. Yeah, there, as you can see there, a 7-point lead now. But of course, Real Madrid still to play in this game week tomorrow. But this Barcelona side, it really is, again, where they realized it was a rotated side. Then realized, okay, we need to win this game. So they did make the right moves. Hansi Flick decides to bring in Raphinha, bring in Lamine Yamal, and it's handle their business. They go, they get the 2 goals, they get the win.
Yeah, unfortunately, they were forced to bring in Lamine Yamal in the first 45 minutes, which is never easy to do because obviously you're on the bench thinking you're going to get a rest, at least until the second half, where the coach says, maybe you'll get 30 minutes. We're preparing you for what's coming up in the Champions League. And then that injury happens and an opportunity is that you're going to throw them out there in the first half and you've got to turn it on. Barcelona are a different team this year. And it's not necessarily just by what they do tactically. It's also the depth that they have. Players who have come into the game trying to have an impression. Great to see Ansu Fati back in there starting, obviously brilliant for him. But in many ways, the team were disappointed to be down 1-0 in this game. I think Lamine Yamal came off the bench and actually changed it because he had a dynamism in him going forward. Every time he got the ball, running against that defense, trying to make it happen. But the team had obviously Ter Stegen back in between the sticks again for the first time. So there was great leadership there. The spine of the team, and tactically it was well set up to get a good performance. It was only a matter of time for me before Barcelona really did get back into this game. But it's unfortunate. Sometimes in these games, you never quite know what to expect. But in some ways, as a champion, you have to find a way to win the nasty ones, the ugly ones. I personally can tell you that being the underdog in my career, playing for a team that was normally in the bottom half of the table, fighting against relegation, I used to love going up against big teams like Barcelona because I used to always try to make it nasty, dirty, slow it down, see if we could win the game by a sneaky goal, try to get lucky. Against this Barcelona team, though, it's a completely different animal this year. They just find a way.
They just find a way, and it really does come down to the mentality of this squad. You could everything that happened today, that having to sub on Lamine Yamal in the first half, having to bring on Dani Olmo, having to bring on Raphinha, that all goes into the mentality of this team and the mentality of Hansi Flick to not be scared. Doesn't matter if you're down a goal, you make the right decisions and right moves to get a win. And they seem to do that on a week in, week out basis where even if they go down, they're not worried. And that really goes to the mentality of not only the players, but it starts with Hansi Flick.
Yeah, put this one on social media. Mentality monsters. That's what this Barcelona team is. They have mentality like no other team that I've seen in European football this season. We have witnessed a number of teams be competitive and entertaining this season, but it's not been the best quality around the top 5 European leagues. You've seen Liverpool pretty much dominate the early part of the season. Very entertaining, very dynamic. Obviously, the way they ran away with the Premier League was incredible to watch. PSG have been very dynamic. Great mentality, obviously, going into 2025. At one point, the most entertaining team in European football. But if you look at consistent through the whole season long, Barcelona have had it from the first game all the way through. They have had to find ways in games where they haven't been playing their best football, and they've had to find a way to come out and win those games. Mentality monster comes from within. It is also coached with you by this man right here. What he has done, Hansi Flick, to get 25 wins in LaLiga this campaign is ridiculous. He probably has the biggest mentality out of all of them. No ego with Hansi Flick. He puts his team as the superstar, not necessarily as individuals as stars, or him as a coach as the superstar himself. Everything is on his team. Building towards victory, building towards success, making sure that mentally you're absolutely tuned in. If you look at the fixtures that are remaining for them across multiple competitions, you have got Inter Milan, Real Madrid El Clásico, Espanyol, Derby. Then you've got Villarreal, difficult team to play in the last game of the season as against Athletic Club. Those are massive games. So mentally, the mental monster going into this matchup knows that they have to get 3 points against this Real Valladolid side. Hugely important. And sometimes it doesn't have to be pretty to get the job done. In the second half, though, they got me off my seat. And this team, more often than not, this has been the team that's got me off my seat.
Mentality monsters is a good way to put it. Those next 2 games will be a big quest in what they're looking for because they have to have that mentality going into against Inter Milan and then maybe even to win the title as they take on Real Madrid. Yeah. And it is interesting because you have such a young squad to have this mentality when you have players that are 20 years old, under 17 years old. I think that makes it even more special. The job that Hansi Flick is able to do to bring this mentality into a group of younger players that, let's be honest, it looks like they don't feel pressure, Ian.
Yeah. Listen, when you take Chesney out of this lineup and you take Lewandowski out of this lineup, the average age comes down drastically. The average age of the performance against Real Valladolid, of the starting 11 in particular, was obviously 23.8, if I'm not mistaken. So they are a very young group of players. But the leadership that you talked about was obviously introduced once again by Ter Stegen. It's great to see him with the captain's armband back in between the sticks. You have obviously Pedri, who leads from that midfield position where he loves a pass, he loves to dominate in possession of the ball. I would even say Araujo in the middle of the defence. Very important to have that type of a figure leading your team. Young players, the way you communicate, organising the team as best as you possibly can. And then obviously as they go forward, you try to utilise the leadership in front of goal. But Lamine Yamal came off the bench, and you want to talk about leadership. I will always talk about experience with leadership connected, because experience automatically gives you some sort of respect in this game. This kid at 17 years old has leadership like I have never seen any other 17-year-old have before. Maybe Pele back in the day, World Cup, blah, 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 we've seen it all before. But this kid is something different. Against Inter, this is the guy who scored the goal, 2-0 down, to get it to 2-1, and all of a sudden is pushing his team, motivating his team, telling everyone to calm down. I got this, don't worry about it. He's 17! And in this game comes off the bench where maybe most players would want to rest ahead of that game against Inter. Not this guy. Mentally ready, always prepared, always wants to win. This team is full of characters. They are full of leaders. I actually see a team that has an opportunity, and let's not forget they've been through financial stress, Barcelona. I see a team that can dominate football over the next 5 or 6 years because of how young they are, how exciting they are, and how great the experience is in amongst this group.
And look at this, the most goals in Europe's top 5 leagues, 160. They're 25 goals ahead of the next team. So we're talking about a historic attack. And you mentioned Lamine Yamal. We can't talk about this historic attack and the leaders that they have without talking about this man right here, Raphinha. We know that he's already one of the favorites for Ballon d'Or. We know all of that and what he does in attack for this team. But I think we also need to mention just overall what a player he's been, because defensively, he puts in the work. We saw it against Inter. He did it again here today where he's tracking back. Are we seeing the most complete player currently right now in football with Raphinha?
I think we're seeing the most complete Raphinha we've ever seen from him. Obviously someone who has grown tremendously. I mean, someone who mentally has also grown tremendously. He has actually been someone who's been criticised for sometimes being someone who obviously is outspoken, someone who sometimes can switch on and off of games. This season, what I've seen from him in growth under Hansi Flick is the fact that he has taken this leadership role. In many ways, he's been wearing the captain armband on a number of occasions for this Barcelona side, and he has grabbed the momentum of this team and pushed them forward. So there's been games where Lamine Yamal's not turned up, and on the other side, Raphinha has turned up and had to turn up in games. Comes off the bench and obviously had a huge impact in this game. They scored 91 goals in LaLiga this season. He's scored 16 of them. By the way, he's got 12 in the Champions League, which is ridiculous. This guy's chasing a golden boot, and it's wonderful to see, playing with Lewandowski. It's insane to see what he has done for the development of his career. This guy played for Leeds United, you know what I mean? And he's playing in levels that you never thought he could ever get to as a world-class player. We're talking about a player who was playing for Leeds United years ago, potentially winning Ballon d'Or. Who's betting against that now? This guy's leading the way with consistency, and actually recently, I love the way he's handled criticism, because the media went after Raphinha because of the way he handled Brazil in the massive defeat. Congratulations to Argentina in a big game. But he also handled it in a tremendously mature way. He maybe was a little immature, obviously, coming off the field for Barcelona, where he was disagreeing with, obviously, some of his teammates and disagreed with refereeing decisions and let his feelings known. That is passion to me. I'm okay with that. You can still be a leader and showcase passion in one way or another. But at the end of the day, players like Raphinha will always do their talking with their ability on the field. And this guy, there are a few better in the world than him right now.
Without a doubt. Raphinha and his Barcelona side taking on Inter Milan in the second leg after an instant classic 3-3 in the first leg.
Who goes through?
I think it's Barcelona.